Now, also important breaking news this hour. We have massive developments regarding the release of the 4-page classified memo exposing Obama-era surveillance of members of the Trump campaign and the Trump transition. And sources are telling me tonight that there is an internal debate at the White House about whether they should release the memo with other supporting documents. And I, for one, am for full transparency. Release it all, and I don't really want anything redacted. Maybe if it impacts sources and methods and security only. Make the memo public. And by the way, it's about getting the truth out, and that is scaring the living hell out of some people at the FBI and the DOJ tonight, and of course the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, and of course Peter Strzok. Now, according to the Daily Beast, Rosenstein, he's named in that memo, and according to other reporting, the Deputy Attorney General is responsible for extending the FISA warrant to literally spy on Trump campaign manager. Remember, the pretext was all under Carter Page. They went much further, and clearly Rosenstein is shaking in his boots tonight. Now, we're hearing from sources that he is the most scared individual in Washington right now, and at this point it's all about self-preservation for him. Now, just look at what fake news CNN is reporting tonight, that President Trump asked Rosenstein if he was on his team. Now, someone might want to check Rosenstein's phone records and emails, because isn't it a little too convenient that when the walls begin to close in on him, especially after McCabe being fired, all of a sudden there's a targeted leak to make Rosenstein look better? Now, the FBI is also trying to attack the memo. And Peter Strzok, he's trying to distract away from his own scandals by selectively leaking information to CNN to try and make himself look better. Now, Sarah Carter, who will join us in a little bit, is reporting tonight that the U.S. intelligence agencies are joining the effort to block the memo from being released. They don't want us to see it. They don't want you to see it. You have liberal Senator Cory Booker is saying releasing the memo would be, quote, treasonous. And in a statement earlier, the FBI wrote in part, quote, with regard to the House Intelligence Committee's memorandum, the FBI was provided a limited opportunity to review this memo the day before the committee voted to release it. As expressed during our initial interview, we have grave concerns about material omissions of fact that fundamentally impact the memo's accuracy. So today, the FBI, they're trying to take shots at the memo. But yesterday, our own Catherine Herridge reported this. 2 senior FBI officials that reviewed the memo, quote, could not point to any factual inaccuracies. Now, the House Intelligence Committee Chairman, Devin Nunes, he's firing back with a powerful statement of his own. Here's what he said, and it's very revealing. Having stonewalled Congress's demands for information for nearly a year, it's no surprise to see the FBI and DOJ issue spurious objections to allowing the American people to see information related to surveillance abuses at these agencies. The FBI is intimately familiar with material omissions with respect to their presentations to both Congress and the courts, and they are welcome to make public, to the greatest extent possible, all the information they have on these abuses. Regardless, it's clear that top officials used unverified information in a court document to fuel a counterintelligence investigation during an American political campaign. Once this truth gets out, well, we can begin taking steps to ensure our intelligence agencies and courts are never misused like this again. Now, it makes perfect sense. The FBI would try to tear down or delegitimize that memo, because the memo clearly, according to Devin Nunes, exposes top-ranking officials at the Bureau using an unverified Clinton bought and paid for dossier, as we have been telling you, as in part the justification to spy on an opposition campaign during an election and a president-elect and his team. Now, to be clear, the media will never report this. We're not talking about rank and file members who work every single day at the FBI, the DOJ, and the intelligence community. What we're talking about, and we're very specific, are a few bad actors in those communities that are on the verge of being exposed for committing massive constitutional violations. Now, that's why they're desperately trying to prevent the memo from coming out, from you having an opportunity to see it. And you may remember back in January, after almost a year of stonewalling Devin Nunes and the House Intel Committee, well, we know that Rod Rosenstein and FBI Director Christopher Wray, they went crawling into Speaker Paul Ryan's office, begging at the last hour after a year, don't give the House Intelligence Committee access to the Russia investigation-related documents. Nunes had to threaten to hold them in contempt before they would comply. And thankfully, to Speaker Ryan's credit, he held his ground in that meeting. Now, if they did nothing wrong, if they didn't do anything wrong, then why fight so hard to prevent Congress from seeing the documents? Release the memo. Release the underlying documents with it, the documentation of it all. And if they did nothing wrong, well, then they were why are they trying to stop the memo from coming out? What don't top FBI and DOJ officials want you, the American people, to know? This is an important question. We're heading towards a showdown. All right, joining us now with reaction to tonight's opening monologue, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, and Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. I have a source, Matt, that actually suggested to me that is as shocking as this 4-page memo is going to be, the foundational information by which it was written, it's going to come on the heels of it, and it's going to be like a slow drip. There are those that are saying, release it all. Would that be a good idea?
That's what so many of us have called for. We believe the memo should be released and that supporting documentation that doesn't reveal sources or methods should also be available for the American people to review. But it's important to note, Sean, this memo lays out facts. These are not opinions. This is not conjecture. These are facts assembled by the Intelligence Committee staff and then presented to the members of that committee. I have every confidence that this will persuade the American people that we've got to make major changes in not only the people that are currently in some of these agencies of government, but also in the regulatory structure so that this type of behavior never happens again.
But if it's a document that fueled an intelligence investigation during a political campaign that's unverified, isn't that basically saying in Devin Nunes' statement that the dossier bought and paid for by Hillary was actually used to get a FISA warrant in an election year against an opposition party candidate? I think my reading comprehension is pretty good.
Well, Sean, as you know, to answer that question with particularity would violate the terms of our non-disclosure agreement. I can say that I believe that many of the issues that have been discussed in the public
square... You can confirm I have good reading comprehension skills? Can you confirm that?
Undoubtedly. You demonstrate them each and every night on television.
All right, Sarah Carter. What we see tonight, to me, is so transparent and obvious. Rod Rosenstein wants to look better. He's scared to death. And Peter Strzok wants to look better. Why he's even still working at the FBI is a mystery to me. But you have sources tonight, and you're breaking some new information.
That's right. I mean, it appears that there's a concerted effort on the part of the FBI, members of the intelligence community, and the Department of Justice to try to force the president to delay the release of the memo. And they're doing this in an effort to buy time, according to sources that I've spoken with, so that they can leak information to try to find a way to either discredit the memo or placate those members of the DOJ that don't want to see this released. Sean, they are terrified about the American people finding out what's in this memo because it does expose members of the DOJ, members of the FBI, and others violating. Yet it names names, and it actually shows extensive FISA abuse. This needs to be made public. The American people have a right to see this, and the intelligence people I've spoken with and U.S. officials who are familiar with this memo say this memo in no way violates the intelligence community's standards as far as disclosing anything that would be related to national security.
Let me go to Greg Jarrett. Greg, I think you have equally...
Let me interrupt right there, Sean. If people are trying to convince the president not to release this memo, they're not going to be successful. He said on the floor last night when Congressman Jeff Duncan was pressing him that he was going to release it, and he said, imagine what would happen if we didn't. So he knows the American people are demanding it.
Sarah Carter, let's talk about the altering of the 302s because this came up in the McCabe firing. This is beyond serious. You have reporting on this. Can you share it tonight?
Well, what we know is this, and what I know is this. I've spoken to a number of sources who have said that McCabe had actually asked members of the FBI, an FBI official actually, to alter the 302. Whether the 302s, those are the witness interviews that the FBI conducts with the witnesses.
And who did they want to alter?
Well, I don't want to talk about that just yet until we verify it, but there was one person in particular that they believe McCabe had asked the FBI agents to alter the 302s. And I think this is significant. It doesn't mean that they altered the 302s, but even the fact that if they were asked, allegedly, if this actually happened, that is a huge violation, Sean. And it's something that they're going to be investigating.
Because we're running out of time, what you're saying is, assuming we got the memo tomorrow, that means the day after, and that means next week and the week after, that we're going to find even more abuse than what it is that I'm talking about, right?
Oh, absolutely. And another very important question here is, when the warrant was issued, who kept reauthorizing the warrant over and over again?
Was it Rod Rosenstein?
There is a lot of discussion that it was Rod Rosenstein who kept reauthorizing the warrants based on faulty information.
Gates, wait a minute. That would mean Rod Rosenstein, the guy that appointed the special counsel Mueller, could have extended a FISA warrant without asking you to reveal anything. Let's say that that's true. Doesn't that mean that Robert Mueller's investigation was predicated on false information based on a false FISA warrant?
Sean, this is an issue where some Republicans disagree. I believe that the information in this memo absolutely proves that the Mueller investigation is built on a rotten foundation, that the entire Mueller probe is a fiction, that it never should have been started in the first place but for bad acts. Right. And so that's my view, and I would suspect that most of the American people would hold that view once they read this memo.